Now in this game my opponent was very strong. I was playing a Grandmaster and I was 21 years old. It was played in the Manhattan Chess Club in 1998. Take a look at the position on the board. I had the white pieces, and it's my opponent's move. It seems like a strange position. The opening was the Sicilian defense, and in the Sicilian a lot of the time white wants to build up on the king's side. So my next move would be to play g5. That's my idea. I want to play g5. If he takes, I would take back. I want to move his knight out of the way. Now his king is stuck in the middle and I can go after him, try to attack the king's side. So that's white's idea. And it's a pretty dangerous idea. But I sacrificed a pawn. You see, in this position, my queen is overloaded. You probably know the theme of the overloaded piece. My queen is defending my knight on d4, and also my pawn on g4. So my opponent had the option of winning the pawn on g4. He can take my knight, I would take back, and then he can take the pawn on g4. In fact, that's what he did. He played bishop takes g4, but I had a trap waiting for him. You know, when I was a little boy, when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, when I sometimes set a trap in a game, when I made a move that looked like it was really bad, but I had something waiting for my opponent, I remember sometimes using the trick. I would slap my forehead and go like, oh no! I would act as if I made a big mistake. And almost always my opponents would right away take the piece, and then I would, boom, I'd hit them with a knight fork, or I'd win their queen, or I'd mate them in 3 moves. I always had a trap waiting. And this is a trick that a lot of kids do, so you have to look out for it. Now in this game, I didn't do any slapping of the forehead. That wouldn't work with the Grandmaster. But still, I had a pawn that was hanging. When your opponent sets a trap for you, a lot of the time, they'll leave something hanging. Watch out for their idea. Now I have a rule about this. You should never, when you're playing chess, not take a pawn or not take a rook or a bishop just because you're afraid of your opponent's idea. You have to be confident in your ability to see everything. And so that's why it's very good to study tactics. If you study tactics, then you'll be able to see all sorts of different things, and you'll trust yourself. But on the other hand, if your opponent is a good player, watch out for traps they set, if there are obvious mistakes. So in this position, he played bishop takes g4. It looks like I've lost a pawn. It's defended by the knight. If my rook takes, he can just simply take it, it looks like. Maybe I made a big mistake. Maybe black just won a pawn. Okay, I want you to stop now. It's white to move. What do you think I had in mind? Think back to my game against Shaked. Do you remember what the key diagonal was? It was the a4, e8 diagonal. And this is where my tactic was hiding. Don't move until you see it. Okay, right away queen a4 check doesn't do anything. He can just go back. Bishop d7, my queen has to move. There's nothing. I had something else. It was a pretty strange tactic to see, and my opponent actually was a grandmaster named Sam Palatnik, and he thought about the position for 40 minutes, and he still didn't see the idea for white. So I don't blame you if you can't see it. But I bet you can do it. Take your time. Alright, now let's think about things logically. First of all, we see that the a4, e8 diagonal is a little weak for black. Queen a4 check doesn't work because his bishop can come back. His bishop is the defender. When our opponent has a very good defender, the first thing to look for, how can we remove that defender? Very important theme in attacking chess. Now do you see the tactic? Rook takes g4 was my first move. If you saw it, great. But did you see further? Knight takes g4. What should white do now? I played queen a4 check. Okay, this part isn't so hard to see. But what was my idea? Black has a natural move, queen d7. Okay, here's a new question for you guys. Take your time, white to move. What was my idea? Some of you may see that I can try to win a piece. I can trade queens, queen takes d7, king takes d7, and then play bishop h3. I'm attacking his knight. It can't move because it's pinned to the king. And if he defends with a move like h5, I can simply play f3, attacking the pinned piece, trying to get a bishop and a knight for a rook, but I'll be down some pawns. It's not so good. But wait a minute, it doesn't work at all. Go back one move. Do you see how black can save the piece? Pretend you were black in this position. What would you do? The key is he has to defend the knight and block the diagonal to the king. His best move is f5, defending the knight. Now if I take it, he just goes back, knight f6, because the pawn is on f5 suddenly. He uses my pawn to stop my own idea. And if I play f3, no problem. Black goes back, he saved the piece, and now I'm down the exchange. So queen takes d7 is not the answer. My idea here was to take advantage of his undefended rook on a8. Bishop b5. Look at this. Now I'm going after the queen. If he doesn't take it, his queen is lost. The queen can't move anywhere because, of course, it's pinned to the king. His only move is a takes b5. And now I would get him. I would play queen takes a8, check. The queen has to go back to d8. And I would play queen takes b7. Now here temporarily the material is even, but his pawn on b5 is doomed. I'm attacking it twice and it can't be defended. And his king is still in the middle of the board on e8. I'm going to get a big attack and I'll win this game quickly. Take a look at it. You see how good it is for white? He wouldn't have been happy in this position. So after queen a4 check, if he plays queen d7, bishop b5 will get a huge position for white. His only other option was to play b5. What was my idea here? Do you feel how similar this position is to the game against Shaked? I'm using the same pinned pawn on a6, undefended rook on a8, same a4, e8 diagonal. Now what was the piece setup that won the game against Shaked? How should I take on b5? Bishop takes b5 would be a big mistake. He can simply take back. I have to take with the queen because she's attacked by the rook on a8, and now black can simply defend, queen d7, and I've given up a whole rook. The key move for me now is knight takes b5. Do you see the point? I'm threatening the same discoveries I was threatening against Shaked. He has huge problems. If he plays a takes b5, you see what white plays? Bishop takes b5. So his only move is queen d7. So in this position, we have mate and 1. Queen takes a8. I'm winning. So after I played knight takes b5, my opponent tried something else. He played e6. And now I have tons of good ideas. What would you play with white here? I have two good options. One was to play knight d4 check. If he moves his king with king e7, knight d6 would win the queen. So his only move is queen d7. Then I could play bishop b5, the same strange tactic as before. He has to take it with the pawn. After queen takes a8, he should come out to e7. And now I can try to bring my rook into the game or to make a passed pawn with a4. Black has very little development. White has a big attack. In this position would be winning. I chose something else. After e6 I used the discovery. Knight c7 double check. His only move is king e7. Then I took his rook on a8. He took back. And in this position it was even material, but his king was horribly placed on e7. And I played bishop e2, a quiet move, attacking his knight. And I went on to win the game pretty easily. I just attacked his king in the middle of the board and there was nothing he could do. If you want to look at the rest of the game, go to the library and look up Waitzkin vs. Palatnik. Now thinking back about this game and the game I played against Shaked, you'll notice that there were very similar tactical ideas that I used, and I beat a very strong grandmaster with them. It's tremendously important to study tactics in chess, and ChessMaster has tons of great drills and tactics to work with. The more you study them, the more they'll become second nature, and you'll be getting stronger and stronger.